Welcome to Taking Stock. I'm Amanda Lang. Coming up on the show, business is feeling gloomy about the months ahead. Are they more pessimistic than necessary? And the Supreme Court told the federal government to butt out of provincial environmental assessments. We'll hear both sides of the argument. Plus, cannabis was legalized 5 years ago this week. We're checking in on the party. That's all ahead. First, for the week that was in business, it's time for the briefs. Inflation in Canada slowed in September. The 3.8% increase in prices was below expectations and could be a sign that central bank rate hikes are having the desired effect. The expectation now is that the Bank of Canada is less likely to raise rates when it meets next week, and falling energy prices could make October's inflation even softer. Meanwhile, business sentiment in Canada is at a 10-year low. The Bank of Canada Outlook survey shows companies expect sales to slow in the months ahead. 1/3 of the businesses surveyed expect a recession in the year ahead, and the majority think it will take 3 years to bring inflation back down. A survey of consumers showed that cost of living issues continue to be the highest concern, with many planning to put off spending that would require any kind of financing. In a first-of-its-kind review of the competitive landscape in Canada, the Competition Bureau has some bad news. Competitive intensity has fallen in Canada over the past 20 years. The Bureau measures that by concentration of a few big firms in sectors, fewer new business entering the market, and profit and prices up, indicating a lack of competitive pressure. Bank of Nova Scotia will cut 3% of its global workforce ahead of a strategic plan it will unveil in December. Scotiabank also said it would write down the value of an investment in a Chinese bank. Together, the two actions will mean a charge of $590 million next quarter. Scotiabank follows other Canadian banks in trimming its workforce. Both RBC and Bank of Montreal have previously announced cuts. Alberta's exploration of getting out of the federal pension plan is getting some pushback from the Prime Minister. Justin Trudeau sent a letter to Alberta Premier Danielle Smith warning of undeniable harm that it would cause. Alberta's assumptions about what it could withdraw from the CPP have been met with skepticism. On the heels of surprising strength in subscriber growth, Netflix raised prices in several countries, including the US, UK, and France. The streaming service is benefiting from a crackdown on shared passwords that did not result in a loss of members, but rather sent new subscribers higher. And those are your business briefs. Well, the Bank of Canada survey of business is a pretty gloomy read. It stands something in contrast to a recent survey by KPMG Canada, which found that small and medium-sized businesses are feeling confident about growth in the next few years, though many are concerned about business slowing. Dino Infanti is the national tax leader for KPMG Private Enterprise. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Amanda.
So I wanted to start with your overall impression, because my read of your survey of this part of the market is that it's actually, there's concerns about pricing and there's concerns still about inflation, but that overall I came away with a feeling of optimism, if anything.
Yeah, and maybe just to level set and give a bit of background, Amanda. Look, our firm every year, KPMG, surveys CEOs of large private Canadian corporations, as well as small and medium-sized businesses. And what struck me out of this survey is they were quite confident about their growth prospects over the long term. And no question, there's various market influences that are coming into play here as it relates to the economy, as it relates to the fast pace of digital transformation and what have you. Mm-hmm. But there's an amazing, consistent resilience amongst the large corporation CEOs and small and medium-sized businesses, and they're facing similar issues: interest rates, inflation, consumer behavior, and whatnot. Now, the takeaway from all of this, and the positive aspect, is that the small and medium-sized businesses have told us is they're quite optimistic and they're quite positive about their long-term growth strategy. Why is that? Well, 12 months ago, they really looked at their business and they were anticipating a recession. What did they do? They had to do things. They had to implement measures to make businesses better.
So there was the preparedness that also jumps out, that the efficiencies, cost cutting, and even in some cases layoffs, right, or change in hiring plans, Dino, has set businesses up well for what might come next. So then let's put that in the context of expectations for recession. It sounds as though they're pretty well prepared if one does come, and maybe even will do really well if one doesn't, or if it's not very bad.
Yeah, correct. So the measures that they implemented and the actions they took really put them in a position whereby they are on a solid footing to be able to weather a storm if a storm is to come. And the things they did are essentially what you had laid out, right? Mm-hmm. Reduce headcount, in some cases, be more efficient, leaner, smarter.
And so overall, we do hear that businesses do think a recession is coming for the most part, and that we get this kind of Bank of Canada sentiment at a 10-year low, which makes us nervous. How much of that do you think can be self-fulfilling? If businesses don't feel confident, then, of course, they'll invest less, and then it becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, yeah, and ultimately, small and medium-sized businesses said in the survey, right, is to ensure that they have a laser focus on their business and to be able to be nimble and adaptable to what might come. So again, falling back and focusing on the things that are important: cash flow, margins, talent, and the fast pace of advancement of technology. Those are all important factors for them to achieve their growth ambition over the long term.
So good to have you for this, Dino. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Amanda.
Dino Infanti is National Tax Leader for KPMG Private Enterprise. Coming up, a Supreme Court ruling puts Ottawa in its place on greenlighting some energy projects. We'll hear both sides of the argument next.